The feds are spying on you. Just a few years ago, this was the kind of statement that you might only hear from some crazy hobos in the streets, but after the Snowden leaks, we learned that one of the National Security Agency's primary functions is collecting, archiving, and scanning the emails, text messages, and phone calls of every US citizen. Now, some people might say, oh, I don't care if they collect my data because I have nothing to hide. Or even worse, some people might say, oh, there's laws to protect me. The feds can't illegally spy on me unless I'm under investigation or unless they have a warrant, right? Doesn't the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act protect me from illegal spying? You've probably heard that before from high-level representatives of the Alphabet Boys and even former US presidents that what they're really interested in is not your data itself, but they're interested in the metadata and the communications between foreign adversaries so that they can catch the terrorist. Really, that's the whole reason for this, right? Well, while it is technically true that the communications of foreign individuals are fair game for the government to collect and analyze, they can go ahead and do that whenever they want, and communications between US citizens, that is what requires a warrant to collect. There's loopholes that allow the feds to bypass that. Like if you or one of the people that you've spoken to recently is having conversations with a foreign adversary, then that would be enough to give the feds legal permission to record your calls and to make copies of your messages. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with terrorists and cartels instead of Kevin Bacon. This is just one of the justifications that the FBI has used for abusing the spy law over 278,000 times between 2020 and early 2021. Journalists, activists, protesters, and more than 19,000 donors to congressional campaigns are just some of the examples of people that the feds have spied on. Now, this legal power, even though it's been abused, is supposed to expire at the end of this year unless Congress renews it. The last FISA renewal was at the beginning of 2018, and it reintroduced the so-called about collection method, which the NSA had actually stopped doing several months prior to that renewal. The about collection made it possible for people's communications to get archived in an NSA database just for their text messages or the bodies of their emails containing certain keywords relating to terrorist activities. You know how you and the boys might be sharing some memes with one another on a Discord server, and then you accidentally tag Osama bin Laden. Now the FBI has to look through all of those channels on your Discord server, even the hidden roleplay channels, and check them for terrorizers. But maybe you're a bit more careful than that, and you always check your messages to make sure that they don't contain the email addresses of any known terrorist. That might be good enough to keep the NSA's automated system from picking up your post, but it's not good enough to keep the spies that are hired by the feds as private contractors from infiltrating your private groups in order to spy on you. Threat intelligence firms like ZeroFox, Dark Owl, and Searchlight Cyber are just some of the few firms that engage in this kind of snooping of private communities by going undercover with anime profile pictures, pretending to be hackers like, oh, how do you do, fellow kids? Do you have any extremist memes that you'd like to share with me? Any databases that you've hacked recently? Now, a lot of these companies, they do work with the government, but some also go undercover on darknet hacker forums, and they download the database leaks and the databases from there in order to provide services like letting you search through those leaks for certain email addresses that might belong to your company to see if maybe you've been exposed. Or some might also give you a ransomware API, which is supposed to let you see if the company has been mentioned on a ransomware website so that you can then take action to protect your data against that. So as you can see, one trend that's developing here is that a lot of these companies, that are going undercover are doing so in hacker communities. So if you're the kind of person that likes to venture into those forums or those Telegram channels, Discord channels, etc., there's a serious chance that you are in the presence of glowies or glowy contractors, more likely, which in a way are even worse than the glowies themselves because they don't have the same kind of legal restrictions, but they still, in a way, have unlimited funding through proxy, since the feds are, of course, using taxpayer money to pay these spies to hire them so that they'll go undercover and relay that intelligence back to them. And something that I found really disturbing when looking into these different companies was the short video from an intelligence analyst that works at CyberInt, an Israeli threat intelligence firm.
I prefer to detect threat actors when they're young or starting out at 14 or 15. That's when I start observing and documenting their malicious activities, because when they're at that age or stage in their career, they're a lot more careless and open, like they tend to show off more. There is a common misconception about hackers, wherein we think they solely operate on financial gain. But I think hacking is a lot about knowledge and power. Unlike in the physical world, you don't need to come from a privileged background or a rich family or a famous family to make it in cyber. You can dominate the playing field just by being creative and resourceful. It's a cat and mouse game between you, the cybersecurity professional, and the bad guys, the threat actor.
So there you go. It's a lot easier to catch the threat actors when they're 14 or 15, because then they're young, dumb, and more likely to make OPSEC mistakes when bragging about their hackerman escapades. Kind of makes you wonder if Omnipotent or maybe Pom Pom Purin ever had conversations with undercover operatives like this back when they were kids. Obviously, black hat hackers are a problem no matter what age they are, and if the parents aren't hip to their kids' online hacker activities, I mean, I guess this is yet another reason to raise your digital literacy to make sure that your kid is not a secret hacker man, because if you're not hip to it, then your taxpayer money is just going to go to the glowies who will track them online and across Discord servers and hacker forums. And then who knows who they're going to end up sending off all the data that they've collected to. Because the EFF has discovered through public record requests that 71 different law enforcement agencies shared things like license plate data that was collected from automated license plate readers, as well as sensitive data about where people work and live with out-of-state agencies. This has always been one of my main concerns with the statewide data collection and the Dragnet data collection is this information doesn't just sit on one government server somewhere forever. It ends up getting sent around to other agencies or stolen and sold on the dark web, and if it wasn't for these statewide data collection programs, your information wouldn't be in a government database in the first place. So watch yourselves online. That hacker with the anime profile picture could very well be an alphabet boy or a private contract spy that was hired by them. Watch out for the honeypots, and remember to always practice good OPSEC.